Hello everyone, Simon here from the Wales of Wall Street. BEPRO is our video today. I haven't done one of these for a couple of weeks now. Well, it has certainly had a nice move upwards in a positive way in the chart. We'll go into that in a second. Nothing huge has happened since the last video. For sure, we covered the fact that BEPRO was indeed acquired by Taiko. I would love to get an AMA with these guys and BEPRO, of course. But Unified is one. Both, I believe, Portuguese as well. And for sure, Portugal is a very much an up and coming blockchain enthusiast, especially Web3. As are most countries, to be fair, of course. But these guys are going to be doing some great things this year, in my opinion. And I think this is exactly kind of what BEPRO needed for a long time. Those that got in early when I did, remember it used to be called BEPRO Protocol. And then, of course, changed to BEPRO Network. So they moved themselves away from, like, I would call, like, predictive markets and that kind of thing to all of a sudden becoming more about Web3 development and giving two options, if I remember correctly from our intro videos, of a service where they provide the resources for you, or they white label things for you that you can take on yourselves if you've got the team. And I would say, like, BEPRO was a bit of a slow burner throughout its process. Since I've been investing in it for a couple of years now, I can't even remember why or how I got into it, other than obviously what I learned about it, and I was really excited and interested from the developer perspective. Don't get me wrong, I don't know a lot about coding and things like this, but I'm, of course, respectable towards developers in general and the coding aspect, especially in blockchain. I work with some fantastic ones in this space, and it's quite incredible. They always say things are easy, and I'm just looking at it like, what on earth is this? So this acquisition, this partnership, if you like, together, is going to do great things, in my opinion. And I think it's exactly, like I said, what BEPRO needed. But the second part of, and this is maybe one of the reasons why I think it's going to have some really good success this year, there's a lot of conversation and push around marketing, and pretty much throughout the last few weeks of BEPRO's social handles have been around hackathons, which is pretty standard for those guys. They love it. Quite a few AMA sessions, and more importantly, community building. Now, I feel that in this space, particularly as a retail investor, a big part of it is awareness and certainly engagement. And what's clear is, like I said, the last couple of weeks, they've been pushing this thing called the B Promoter. Very good. Ambassador program. So rewarding systems for supporters, community builders, and the usual stuff that you'd expect. So you can pretty much identify most people that they are ambassadors. Occasionally, we have some really cool people that help the channel out sometimes, like not directly, but like with some information. And I always ask them, I was like, oh, do you do like influencer stuff? Because, like, in my real world job, as it were, along with marketing stuff, I'm always interested. But they're always like, no, we don't get sponsored. We just do it for the enthusiasm. Same as what I do this channel for. We don't get sponsored. We don't have an alternative, reality as to why we push certain projects over others. It's just what we hold, and we like to also talk about topics and projects we don't hold for you guys out there. And it's very easy to see on social media when people are ambassadors, but I quite like the word slyness of it, how they do it sometimes. So what's going to be really good is getting really enthusiastic people that respect and enjoy the BEPRO branding. Of course, probably Taiko as well, if I say that correctly, and bringing them to life a bit more. And I think this is a really good thing. Influencers have a big power right now. Always said in the future there won't be governments. It will be run by influencers and voting systems, probably through the likes of DAO and blockchain voting systems, because that's the way the world is going, in my opinion. But for time's sake, now is about the engagement piece and growing a brand's integrity and identity. This is really important. So I can see a lot more of this happening, like moving forward. But I think in the grand scheme of things, this is going to have a really positive effect for BEPRO in this year coming. So from an investor's perspective of, I've seen a lot of people certainly last year, towards the end of last year, and certainly this year, saying BEPRO is dead, it's not moving, it's not doing this, not doing that. I think the acquisition's definitely going to push that in a positive way, organically and generically anyway. But the second part of my point is, when you've got influencer campaigns and marketing collateral behind you on this as well, it really does make a difference. The technology, the project itself is one thing, but actually like the marketing efforts is certainly something that's extremely beneficial. So we'll sure see how that kind of concludes further as the year goes on. But that's why one of the main reasons I think BEPRO is going to have a really good year. So we can now check out the chart for BEPRO. And as you can see, like with most asset classes in the last sort of 3 to 5 months, haven't been great. But we have to admire the fact that we've had with BEPRO some really heavy moves in the past. And look at that, all the way up here, back to 5 cents. That sounds a bit silly to say, like we're getting excited about 5 cents. But when you look at it from where it's come from, 0.0002, in that instance, actually, we can measure very quickly for the benefit of all you guys out there that are listening rather than watching. That's 20... Sorry, am I reading that correctly? Okay, so from February 2021, 0.0007, let's just take that as an example. In fact, I'm just zoom in and make sure I got this correct. Pulling it up to there, yeah, I was going to say, I don't know what happened there, I was reading the wrong number. 6,000%. Unbelievable. And we've had a few of those moves from BEPRO in the past, more recently. But as I said, from around this October time, good 5-6 months, we've had the downward trend like we've had with many, many projects, right? This is a very similar pattern across the board. So it's not really anything different. But BEPRO, everyone was so like slating it left, right and centre always. Even when it was doing well, it was slating it. But I wanted people to understand like the technology of this project, what BEPRO's actually used. And it's arguably like almost a payment system for developers and people to essentially like hackathons and things to represent improving systems to make it more secure. And that is their reward system. And as long as you understand that, you think how many developers there are out there and how many projects are being developed right now, and you want systems in place to help with that. BEPRO is one of them. I'm sure they'll bring other aspects to the game with this acquisition. But for me, I'm a long-term holder. I did really well with staking BEPRO with KuCoin a while back, probably like a year ago or something. And I've tried to accumulate wherever possible. Is it a good time to buy it right now? Not, in my opinion, right now, because we've had this uptake. And there's 127%, guys, from this marker on the 14th, 15th of March. That's a really nice rise for something that's supposedly not very good to some people out there. So that's my first argument. And I'm just going to pull across, this fib retracement level from the top line here, so we've got a bit of a better understanding here. So as you can see, in fact, I'm going to draw a second one in. It's a bit more short term, so we can see the middle moves as well. So what we're doing right now is we have this tail up. The RSIs, which very nice indicators that we always like to try and use. If we go back 2 days, 30th of March, the RSI was sitting about 76. Now this is a really good, for me personally, first initial sell-off from when I was buying 2 weeks ago. It's very obvious. 14-day RSI calculates from the point back here. So in the space, not back here, so that's January, from 2 weeks ago. So that to me identifies and confirms almost a near double position. So I'm happy to take that, as I did a couple of days ago, a bit of BEPRO out. And on the 28 day, it's looking still very strong on 61 as well. So you've got two double confirmations there. We're now having a tail off, which is understandable because we have some profit taking and the volume started slowing down. You can see that in two areas. One here on the histogram, identifying the cool off, albeit it's not finished yet. And that's why I'm quite excited, because I think potentially we could get some tests of areas around here that we matched in February, 0.004, and some really nice movements around here in January as well. So I do anticipate that we might potentially see some resistance around here. We could get some pull downs a bit further down, arguably touching back to this point here on the 1st of March, before another tail up. And I think we're going to start seeing a bit more of a battle around this particular area. Don't even know what that is. 0.5%, right? Yeah. I think we'll see a bit of a battle around the 0.5% mark over the next few days, maybe a week or so, before we decide what's going on. And that will allow time for these two, 14 and 28 day, to perhaps stretch itself out a bit more. So you might see the 28 day coming down to maybe 55, 52, and you might see that 14 day stretching back down to around a sort of 54 to 60 mark as well. That's going to be where you start seeing potential sideways trading, and potentially the opportunity to decide whether we're going up or down. Sounds very cliche, I say this quite often, but that's the way it is in these particular areas of charts. Okay, so we're literally waiting now for this to find some element of support, or certainly something that is going to magnetize between. And what I mean by that is, if you could imagine a line, in fact I'm going to draw one for the sake of this conversation. Let's say these touch points that we were talking about just a minute ago. So what we could identify is that this might come down over a few days to here. Doesn't mean it might stop here, and that would be really good because it shows a new support line, but I'd anticipate they would drop down, because then we need to identify, is there enough confidence in there where we massively overpurchase too much that we need to maybe draw back into a more of a trend line here, and then it might stick a bit lower. But if we get a drop down and a pull up, then what I call the magnetism line is where we have a bit of up and down movement around this area before it then fully decides. So that's what I'm anticipating. I'm just going to remove that line because we've got quite a few going here at the moment. So I'm going to draw in a couple of areas. So I've sold off up here. I haven't bought back in yet. And I'm literally going to be very interested around this area here. It's really minimal, but just for the argument's sake of this conversation, and if you were looking to maybe get some entry points for BEPRO, and you're potentially fussed about this particular kind of area, I mean 0.5% still makes a difference if you've got enough of them, and in the long run for sure. And we're already on this downward trend anyway, so it could arguably be easy to hit this point anyway. But I would be very interested actually maybe in the middle ground of this, around bang on that 0.4% mark, and as well as down here just slightly under 0.0038. Those are going to be my two initial marker downs as dollar cost averaging on the way down. Okay, so let's see how that plays out. Let us know in the comments below what you're doing with BEPRO. Have you been buying in these lower areas, or are you looking to have entry points? Let us know. But this is not financial advice. This is my theory on this. It's been working for the last 2 years, and I just like sharing what I do. So they're the two particular areas I'm going to put buy orders in for this great project. And a couple of other things, like I said, with the RSI, it's really important to understand what's going on with proper data. So the MACD switched over here on the 16th of March. We'd been in a very nice bull momentum. This is in the second wave now. So this is where I've seen a big pull up. Clearly confidence in BEPRO. It's completely annihilated the very, very small sell-offs we had back here in February and March. So it's almost like BEPRO is finally getting the confidence back in it. And as you remember, I mentioned earlier in the video about the ambassador program. The marketing is needed for this project, in my opinion, to stop the people from slating it. People need to understand it more and have more awareness of it. And the more awareness is it, more people will invest, and thus the price rises. So I do believe this is going to be a really fun project for this year. price prediction wise, I'm not really sure. I mean, I've always thought BEPRO in a proper bull run could get to at least 20 cents, right? That's the previous price prediction we did. But I for sure would be extremely happy to at least see us approaching these higher levels again, back at 5 cents. But I'd be extremely happy to see about 10 to 12 cents in the bull run if there ever was a big one this year. 20 cents would probably be a bit of a push, possibly, but that's for sure one of the longer term targets that I have at least. But yeah, I'd be very pleasantly happy with 10 or 12 cents this year. Let us know what you think about that in the comments below, and what your price predictions are. But if we get the full momentum of this and the marketing really does kick in and the acquisition turns out to be, you know, really worthwhile, we could see that 20 cents, in my opinion. Couple of things before we finish. We have 15% negative on the 3 months, but that is so nice to see that dragging down. But look at these weeklies and the monthlies, very much bang on nearly. Nice to see that in positive momentum, and I would absolutely love to see these two over the coming months pull themselves back to that 0 mark and beyond. So let's see how it goes. For me, I'm excited about BEPRO still. I'm a long-term holder, and will continue to do so. But yeah, my first sort of proper sell-offs, I did a bit, like I said, a couple of days ago. My first proper ones are probably going to be more around the 1 cent mark, and you know, potentially if we do get back to these levels this year, you know, at the higher regions between the 2.5 and the 5 cent mark. So we're a bit of a long way off that, of course. But guys, I'm going to wrap that up there. Let us know what you think about BEPRO in the comments below. We will cover these guys again, hopefully next week. But until then, thanks for watching this one, and we will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.